Thank you very much for joining me. In our last video, I mentioned querying the database. Why do we have to query the database? We have to query the database to check if a user has been registered before. We don't want a user to be registered multiple times. We want each user to be registered once. And how do we specify? We know this by the email used in registering. So we have to check if a user or if an email occurs twice in a database. How do we do that? Query. Now let's just query our database. Remember, we have not created our database. So everything here has been done or will be done before creating our database. So I'm using the code first method of approach, coding everything down and then going to my database and just typing the variables I used here. So in the case of fname, I know that I'm going to write fname in my database and so on. So now let's query our imaginary database. We have not created it yet, so let's query our imaginary our database, so to speak. So now what do we do? Now variable query. Now variable query has been defined by me. It is not a keyword from PHP. Is equals my SQLi query. Of course, our connection string, because we are trying to query our database. And then we have our string, double quotes. We are going to pass an SQL statement here. Insert into, you can see the color has changed to blue. It is not a normal string like password, because unlike this normal string here that we have email, we have an SQL statement here because we are making a query, SQLi query. So insert into, what is the table name in our database? I'm going to call that table users. So I'm going to call it users. You can see users has changed because it is a table name. Now, sorry, I was inserting. I'm supposed to select. So about that, select all. I will use the asterisk sign for all. Select all from users, which is the name of the database. Then where is our constraint, where email is equals to, and we have our single quotes is equals to variable email. Now if my SQLi number of rows of variable query is greater than 0, meaning if an email was found in the database, if number of rows of email, this email here, if the query was executed and found out that the number of rows that has that email is greater than 0, not greater than 1. If it is greater than 1, meaning you are going to have 2 emails there. So greater than 0 meaning it's going to have 1 email there. So if it is greater than 0, meaning that email has already been registered. So that is our constraint. So if it is greater than 0, open our if statement, and then we have log our error. Remember, variable errors is an array, so variable errors, we've declared it as an array, so let's call it email is equal email address already exists in the database. Save. Now this is if the user email has been registered before. Now next, what do we do? Password again. Now let us check for the password. Now if variable password is not, so about that, not equal to variable c password. So if the password imputed is not equals to the confirmed password, meaning we are going to log another error, variable errors, password, we call it passwords do, sorry about that, passwords do not match. Good, we've logged the errors now. What else? We've checked for email and we've checked for the password, meaning we've prepared our statement. Now we have to insert it, execute our statement, execute our statement. So that is where we'll start in the next video. We're going to check how we can execute our statement, validate and execute. See you all in the next video.